That means you can do the same amount of work with less effort in less time. So here's a sampling of the efficiencies you'll discover in this course. So some of the highlights that we'll see is you can collapse the navigator that appears on the left-hand side of each ServiceNow screen. That preserves precious real estate on your screen for the core data in the middle of the screen. You can exercise a command history list that shows all of the last 30 commands that you issued within the instance, in case there's a command that you need to repeat, or as you refine a series of commands to go from the more general to the more specific. You can establish favorites, and that is a shortcut to replicate a particular view and filter of a list, identifying only the columns that you have interest in, view, and the rows that you have interest in that have been passed through the filter. So you can re-execute this over and over again against the same table. You can wrap long string fields. For example, short description and description fields can be very long within records in ServiceNow, corresponding to what the user has entered. If you wrap those long string fields in a list view, you can display more list view columns in a single screen. You can use keyboard shortcuts, most especially Alt, Control, F. Anywhere where you are on the ServiceNow instance will bring you back to the very top of the application navigator, so you can issue a new filter request to look for things in the application navigator or to exercise commands against table in the ServiceNow instance. You can delay related list loading. In almost every record within ServiceNow, there are fields at the top of the form that are specific to the table of interest. And towards the bottom of the screen, there are related lists that connect these kinds of records to records in other tables. If you decide to delay loading those related list fields, you can actually speed load the forms much more quickly. It's possible that all the information you need is up at the top of the form, so why wait for the related lists to load? You can have some very quick single field selectors. By that I mean when you're looking at a list view, you can hover over an individual field value in a specific column and say, I would like to see all rows in this table that match the value of this field or that do not filter out the value of this field. This means you can pivot the entire visual presentation of a list based on the value in one field, whether to include that, show matching, or exclude all records that have that value filter out. You can create or share list view filters. That means that once you have established a particularly useful filter of records in a list view, you can then save that filter to apply to other views of that same table. You can see what's changed. If you're trying to understand from an operational point of view why a record has not been processed according to the guidelines and the expectations, it's sometimes incredibly useful to be able to see what's changed in this record since the last time it was operating properly. There is an activity list on most task records within ServiceNow that show who changed what value and when. So sometimes just simply knowing what's changed is a tremendous clue to being able to resolve operational issues. You can also see all changes. There are history records associated with many tables within ServiceNow, so you can see all of the changes that have accrued against this record since it was originally created. Not only seeing the changes themselves, old value, new value, but the time and where the change occurred and who precipitated the change. You can export data. If you're looking at a list of ServiceNow records within a particular table and you have a need to do some extensive analysis of that, you can export those rows into an external application such as Excel for further analysis. You can create and share reports. Reports of all flavors, list views, charts, pivot tables, in multiple formats across multiple tables, producing reports that not only show all incidents, but the problems to which they're associated. A report that shows not only all change requests, but the change tasks that comprise them for their fulfillment. And lastly, and most germane to this particular class, you can figure out how to find work. Recall, this class is all dedicated to the fulfiller, the person who fulfills tasks within ServiceNow to the benefit of the organization and the users who's made the request. We'll talk in great detail about the My Groups Work module in order for you to be able to find work to fulfill.